Hello, everyone. It's me, Nikki. If you're new here, you might be wondering who I am. That's a great question. I love talking about myself, so I am happy to answer it. Who is Nikki? I am Nikki, but you can call me thick Jewish girl. Okay, for real though, who am I? I'm just a girl, a 25-year-old who grew up in the suburbs about a half an hour away from where we are right now in Chicago. Would you say half hour? I'd say 45 minutes. I did not go to college. As a matter of fact, I barely graduated high school. I have a feeling that my parents must have paid the district to let me graduate because there's no way I had enough credits. As I said, I did not go to college. I don't even know how I was given my diploma in high school, but it really had nothing to do with my intelligence. Not saying I'm the smartest person on earth, but I'm pretty smart. Probably had more to do with the who now like to call themselves my friends that I went to high school with. The lack of me being able to graduate high school or almost being able to graduate high school probably also had something to do with the fact that I was unmedicated and undiagnosed for way too long. Way too late in the game, and my brain doesn't know the difference between being held up at gunpoint and being asked to sit in a chair for more than 5 minutes. I don't know about you guys, but I grew up in a town where nobody does not go away for college. As a matter of fact, there was a day in high school where everybody wore a t-shirt of the college that they were going to, and I'm going to put a picture right here of the shirt I wore. It was the Gap logo and said Gap Year because I wanted to make it sound like I was traveling the world when I knew that I was going to take a couple classes at my community college and get really high. But my biggest regret wasn't not going to college. I have zero regrets there. It was more giving a fuck about what other people thought of me not going to college. So if you're in my boat and you're thinking about doing anything but college, whether it's getting a job or joining the army, I don't know, good for you if you are. Who cares? Anyways, I did some pretty epic things while my friends were at college. While my friends were rushing alpha apple pie, I worked on TV shows for about 3 years. Shameless, Chicago PD, Chicago Med. I was more or less a glorified extra, but I had some lines, like when I played a homeless lesbian on Shameless, or when I played a psych patient on both Chicago PD and Chicago Fire. I was playing two separate characters. I'm not really sure how they got a hold of my personal file, but they casted pretty spot on. I had to get up on my own 2 feet with a couple $100 in my pocket and move to the city. So, 20 years old, before my friends graduate college, I move out on my own to Chicago. Was living in a high rise, working at a Fortune 200 company. Okay, I got laid off a couple months ago, but we'll talk about that later. My friends came home from college and I was already there, baby. I was already there. So, back to the people who aren't sure what they're going to do after high school. Again, give less fucks. It's going to work out. It's going to work out. Anyways, yeah, I did just get laid off from my job. I have no idea what I'm doing now, and that's why we're here. Because I want to talk about the fact that none of us know what we're doing. If you can find me a 20-something-year-old or a 30-something-year-old, honestly, any age, and they tell you that they know what they're doing with their life, they're lying. It's like people who say they don't pee in the shower. You either pee in the shower or you're lying. It's the truth. My mom says she doesn't pee in the shower. Makes me wonder what else she's lying about. Anyways, yeah, we have no fucking clue what we're doing. One day we're living at our parents' house. They're making us little sandwiches to put in plastic bags to go into our lunches. And if you're like me, you get 100 calorie packs on the side. I wish they were Cheez-Its, but no. She was fat, which we'll also talk about later. Anyways, we have no clue what we're doing. Nobody taught us about health insurance and how when you turn 26, you are kicked off your parents' health insurance. If you're me, it's a little bit earlier. Thank you, Mom and Dad. Nobody tells us how we're supposed to get our vaccines every single year at the same time. Nobody's scheduling that for us anymore. If you're in your late 20s, have you gotten your vaccine every year since you moved out of your parents' house? I bet not. How about taxes? Who the fuck was going to tell us about taxes? So yeah, I moved to Chicago at 20 with no plan and no safety net. A huge leap. Never thought about failure. That's a lie. I thought about failing a lot. And I did fail. My first year living in Chicago, I went home for about half the year. I didn't like being away from my mommy. And that's okay. But I did think a lot about what would be next. Fast forward 5 years, here we are, sitting on my couch, unemployed, in the middle of one of the biggest Hollywood scandals on earth, taking advantage of it and starting my own podcast because I have a lot to say and I think people will listen. A lot of people ask me, Nikki, why do you share so much online? Why do you trauma dump to a bunch of strangers? And to that I say, because I want to. But I also say that because growing up, I never saw somebody, an influencer who looked like me. I know I'm so skinny now, but she grew up fat as fuck. And nobody looked like me, and nobody was honest about their mental health, and nobody was honest about the things they've been through. So, my idea is that, like, if one person's watching this, one young girl, one young Nikki who's watching this, and she thinks, damn, I kind of look like her, and she doesn't hate herself. Sometimes I do, don't get me wrong. Anyways, if one little girl, one person hears my story and they think, wow, I'm not the only person who went through that, then tens of thousands of people hearing my embarrassing stories is all worth it to me. We're going to talk about it and we're going to use the word fat. Because fat's not a bad word. Growing up, I was called fat a lot. I was an easy target. And it took me a while to learn that fat is a fucking adjective and it's up to you to decide whether it's a bad word or not. Anyways, we're going to reframe that narrative. And next time you get called fat, say thank you. All right. Let's talk about men. I've had my fair share. I wrote the word awkward down in my notes, but let's say horrible experiences with men. Especially dating as a bigger woman, it is scary. It took me a long fucking time. And it's still taking me a long time to realize that maybe I deserve somebody who isn't a piece of shit. A couple months ago, okay, mom, dad, cover your ears. I'm not going to talk about sex, don't worry. A couple of months ago, I had a guy over and he brought a gun. And it didn't alarm me at all because I have self-worth issues. So we are learning to expect more for ourselves. And that is not easy. And I don't think it's just big women who have a hard time with that. I think it's everyone. But in this podcast, not this episode, but in this podcast, we're also going to talk about moments where I've learned to appreciate the love I deserve. And that's really fun. Learning that you are worth a lot more is pretty sick. We'll get into some crazy dates that I've had, like the one that lasted 48 hours and I paid for everything and he didn't even kiss me. His hair was greasy. Oh my God. He told me he was going to take a shower. I'm like, what's taking so long? Thought maybe he was taking this man was taking a bath. And this happened twice. And when I confronted him, he's like, yeah, I have an infected toe. I need to take baths. In my bath? Be so for real. Last week, I was talking to this guy. We hung out like 3 times, and I haven't heard from him since. So, wondering what does everybody get ghosted? Let's get back into talking about the fact that nobody has any idea what we're doing. Because now that I'm unemployed, the first thing I thought of was like, what do I want to do next? I don't know. We could talk about imposter syndrome or the fear of being left behind. I think that's the biggest thing. I'm not jumping into a new job just to have a new job, but I also have this fear in the back of my head, like, am I behind everybody? And the fact of the matter is, we're not in high school anymore. There's no timeline. We don't have to be anywhere. Who gives? If you can take your time to figure out what you want to do, take your time. Try out some new stuff. You might find something you enjoy that you wouldn't have been able to find out if you were stuck doing what you're supposed to do. We're going to be relatable and honest on this podcast. It's important for me to be authentic because there are so many fake bitches online. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I got 60 units of Botox a couple of weeks ago. My face had a lot of lines before. The lip flip, it's flipping. It's flipping. Before, I would smile and you couldn't see my lip. Now you can. Let's be honest. My boobs are fake. Yeah, they are. I mean, they're my boobs, but they're real. But like, there's no plastic. They're mine. But they were augmented. Now you guys know what we're going to be doing here. I just gave you a little intro into my life. I will get into the nitty gritty in the next episodes, but I have a couple of questions to answer from the viewers. Oh, this is a good one. Have you always been a thick Jewish girl? Yeah, I have. Always been fat and Jewish. I have an autoimmune disease called Hashimoto's thyroiditis. If you have it, I'm so sorry. I grew up asking my doctor to test me for everything because I was doing everything under the sun. Dieting, not eating, working out, dancing 5 days a week on top of working out, and nothing was happening. So by the time of my 18th birthday, finally left my pediatrician. They finally agreed to test me after all of those years of not doing it, and I finally got a diagnosis, and my thyroid wasn't functioning at all. So if by any chance there's a my dog, there's a doctor watching this, or a wannabe doctor, or an intern, or a resident, listen to your patients. They might be doing everything they can. Oh, and for the patients, advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself. Advocate for yourself. Learn that the hard way. I have a lot of chronic illnesses, and we'll talk about that at some point. Today is not the day. Okay. Most of you came here for the question that I'm about to answer. I got this question in a lot of different forms, but this one pretty much describes how I'm feeling. Can you please explain how you got into this whole Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni situation? I am so fucking confused. I'm so fucking confused too. This is bizarre. I'm literally just a girl, but I will explain to you what I know, okay? All right, here we go. POV. You read a book called It Ends With Us, and a year later, you're at your pool with your mom. You're taking a chill weekend at home in the suburbs, and your mom tells you she is going to a movie premiere and that the guy from Jane the Virgin's in it, but she doesn't know the name of the movie. And I said, It Ends With Us? And she said, Yeah, I think it's that. And I was like, Mom, that's my favorite book. You need to get me into this premiere. So she texts her friend who's hosting the premiere. She is acquaintances with one of the owners of Wayfarer Productions. So she gets me into the premiere. We get up in our florals. We get all dressed up in our florals, which you know, whatever. And I've been deciding whether I'm going to share this part or not, but I'm going to. We get dressed up in our florals and we go to the movie premiere. And I know Justin is going to be there. But what I didn't know, this is scary. What I didn't know, and this is important because if you've seen the movie or you've seen anything about it, you know that it is about domestic violence. And fuck, I was not planning on sharing this part, but something is telling me to. I hate when my conscience is working. Okay, we got this. I walked into the movie theater with my mom and her friends, and we're all dressed up in our florals. And lo and behold, the man who's about to take my ticket is a piece of shit who physically hurt me. So I'm walking into a movie with my mom, who knows nothing of this, and the man who he works at the movie theater. I haven't seen him since he punched me in the face. Okay, it was more of a really hard hit. And then I have to watch an entire movie about domestic violence. I also have to tell my mom about my experience with this man while sitting in a movie theater, which was hard. So I see this movie. I think it's a beautifully written movie. Um, Obviously, it's not realistic. It's not that easy to get out of a situation like that. But I was lucky enough to be able to have an experience with the producer and director of the movie, Justin Baldani. He came into the movie theater. It was just a movie theater filled with women from our community. There was no press there, no cameras, no nothing. He was there for us. And everything he had to say was amazing. He spoke on how he, as a man, will never have to experience what it feels like to be a woman, to experience what it feels like to have to carry pepper spray to your car, or really the fear of being a woman. And he brought the organization that he partnered with, No More, he brought a team of women there to see the film and be with us. We were given a bag of goodies that was all women-owned businesses, and it was really cool. And I had a great experience with him and Jamie Heath, who also owns Wayfarer. And it was really nice to be in the presence of a man that I felt so comfortable with after walking into the movie theater and seeing the man who hurt me so badly. And so after that, everybody, all these people wanted to take pictures with him. And my mom was like, Nikki, go take a picture with him. Go take a picture with him. And I was like, no, he's busy. He's busy. He hears that and he asks, and he says, no, let's take a picture. And I take a picture. He's like, the lighting wasn't good. Let's take another one. His PR team is trying to get him to go out, like to leave. And he's like, no, stop. I'm talking to this girl. And he asked me what my name is. And we talk about the movie and how I really, it was really clear that he really took everything that when I was reading the book, what I imagined it to be, he took it from the pages to the screen, and it's exactly what I imagined it to look like in my brain. And he was tearing up when I said that. I think it was knowing now what we know and that he wasn't allowed at his own premiere, it was probably really nice for him to hear that from someone. And yeah, he spent a lot of time just talking to me and being human. And so I was really touched by that. And a couple of weeks later, I posted a TikTok talking about how my experience with him was so amazing and how I thought that it was really weird that Blake had not talked about domestic violence at all during her press tour. And nothing really came about that video. It had under 30,000 views, which is a lot of views, but I have videos that have millions of views. And a couple of months, like 6 months later, about 2 months ago now, no, not even 2 months ago, I wake up to a ton of calls. I open my TikTok and somebody comments saying, Blake Lively named you in her lawsuit. And I was like, what? It's a joke. So I look at my missed calls and it is a bunch of news reporters. And I'm like, oh, this is happening. This is happening. My video wasn't malicious. It wasn't mean. If you were online at the time, you know that she was being dragged through the mud. So to choose a 25-year-old girl who is not relevant and whose username is Thick Jewish Girl to put in this is an interesting take. Given, if you thought for 1 second about how much hate someone whose username is Thick Jewish Girl is going to get, it might mean that you have some empathy. Anyways, I did decide to post that online. When you post something online, you're deciding that everybody might see it. So I take ownership for that. But that's how I got here. She alleged that I was part of the smear campaign that was going on. There was no smear campaign. I hadn't talked to Justin since the night of that premiere. I don't know, but I just decided to make something out of it and build a community of people. She failed so much at taking advantage of her platform to build a community of like strong women who support each other. So if I can do that, even if it's on a lower scale, I think that's plenty of revenge on Miss Blake. There are so many other questions I got about this. I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out. But the reason I spoke out on it was because as someone, and 90% of women will experience sexual harassment in their lifetime, as somebody in that movie theater, along with the 90% of other women who have experienced it or will experience it, to feel safe after seeing that movie in the room with that man who played that character and still feel safe with him is worth speaking about and giving him some recognition for. And those are just my 2 cents. We have a very special guest joining us today who you may all have recognized. You probably have recognized her. She's done interviews with the most famous of the famous, Angelina Jolie, Jennifer Aniston, and Blake Lively. If you haven't seen the video, I like your little bump. I'll show you it now.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
Congrats on your little bump.
So good to see you again.
You too. If you aren't already aware, and I'm sure that you are, she is an award-winning journalist and multimedia producer. And we have one weird thing in common. There's been a lot of darkness since I was falsely accused of being part of Blake Lively's smear campaign, but you have been a light in that.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. I mean, there's nobody else I could go to that could relate to me. It's so niche. So I appreciate the sense of comfort and support you've given me.
Oh, that goes for you too, you know. It is a weird situation to be in, to be accused of something, and then you feel like you have to come out and defend yourself, and people don't believe you. It was horrible.
Yeah.
And I'm sure for you too, you know, you're so much younger than me. You have less experience with these things. And not that I've been accused of a lot of things before, but, you know, I completely understand that it's been hard for you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I know you have a lot of experience in the media and whatnot. But it definitely was a jump scare for me. But it seems like people are realizing that what the truth is. And I mean, the real smear campaign was done by Blake Lively, starting with the interview that you had.
Yeah, I think she smeared herself. I think we can agree on that now. And that's the crazy thing about this, you know, that you see that she's accusing her own bad behavior on other people.
Yeah.
I mean, we all saw her, the way she behaved in my video and in other interviews. It was so obvious to everyone. And then to try and blame her own bad behavior on other people like you and me, it's just beyond absurd.
Yeah. And I was honestly hoping that when all of her information came out, that there would be, you know, a reason or an excuse or an apology. It would have been that simple.
I know.
To get her out of this mess.
It would. And I mean, now I'm so surprised still. I don't know. I've been thinking, like, is it her own team that's giving her really bad advice? Or are they giving her good advice and she refused to take the good advice? I don't know. I just feel another example of how disillusional some of these celebrities are, you know?
I just don't know what she expected to happen. Like, did you expect none of us?
You know, I think when people have gotten away with bad behavior for so many years, you know, I spoke to someone yesterday he's been a fashion editor for many like big magazines, international US magazines. And he talked about her behavior back when she did Gossip Girl season 2, which is like I don't know, maybe 20 years ago. And she was just the same person as we could see that the way she's behaving now. And she's gotten away with it for 20 years. So I think for her, it's just, a normal Tuesday when she's like that. So that's what really bugs me about this, that no one ever says anything to these people that can bully their way through life like that.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm not glad that we were included in the lawsuit or the complaint, but I'm glad that if it was anybody, it was us because she messed with the wrong women.
She did.
Because we're not going to sit back and let someone lie on our names.
No. And I think you see the same with Justin Baldoni now. Like, was she expecting that he would just take all these allegations? Like, did you see the statement that her and Ryan prepared for Justin to come out with? I mean, it's just like, I just get a new shock every day when I continue reading his complaint or his amended complaint. And it's just crazy to me. People like you and me are coming forward and saying like, that's not okay. And this didn't happen. This is not true. And for us, I was also mentioned in that New York Times article, and to be dragged into something like that with such big powerhouses behind it, it's terrifying.
Yeah, and I made a video where I said, Blake, you don't think about the consequences of your actions when it comes to other people. Not only are you, you're on this huge platform and you can either use it for good, or now she's not only tearing other women down in the way of, using their name, but also it's been proven that she's lied, not only because we can both say that we were not contacted to be part of a smear campaign, but it's going to make it harder for other women to be believed. And that's what breaks my heart the most out of all of this.
Yeah, you have no idea how many women reached out to me who has been real victims of domestic violence or SH or whatever. So, for them to watch this unfold and to see her being caught in lies, it's a lot of similarities. I think people are, drawing similarities to Amber Heard, which was also, a slap in the face of all women when you see someone coming out like that and basically just lying.
And the Ryan Reynolds of it all.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. No, the thing with Ryan is like, I've met him many times and he's always been the nicest person to journalists.
Mm-hmm.
I only see him from a journalistic perspective. And my boyfriend Magnus interviewed him many times. He's been super nice. He's known for being the nice guy in the industry. So now to actually see who he really is, it's disappointing. And then you start questioning other people, in the industry that has this image outwards that they're just nice guys and easygoing and just kind people. Yeah. I feel like the whole internet is working right now to find like what's really happening. Why did she really send that text message? How much is Ryan Reynolds involved? How much is Taylor Swift involved? It's a big mess. And where is it coming from? That anger. I did an episode yesterday on my YouTube channel where after I spoke to this guy, this insider, the fashion editor, who told me that he had to cut out all of the size labels inside the clothes before he gave them to Blake because she wouldn't put on clothes that were bigger sizes. So she lied about her size. And to me, that just tells me that she has a lot of insecurities, around her body. And this was a long time ago. And I think we see that throughout what's been happening on the set events with us as well, and how she had created her own wardrobe. She wanted to pick her own clothes. It was all like big, baggy clothing, all these things that also I think is why that triggered Ryan Reynolds, because he was like, oh, every little thing that has to do with body or weight is like fat shaming, to protect his wife. And Justin Baldoni, all he did was trying to be, comfort her and say she looks amazing. We can shoot the more like close-up body scenes later in the shoot to make her feel comfortable. He did everything. And you can see it in the text that he sends her. And he just wants to help her and help her health. She's sick a lot. And then she's turning all this around and using it against him. It's so nasty.
Yeah, people forget that Wayfair Productions isn't Sony.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not huge. And, I know Steve, who's one of the owners, who he opened up a movie theater in our hometown after there was a mass shooting. All of the
Wow.
Yeah, all of the businesses were failing in Highland Park, and he still decided to like open up a movie theater to bring some happiness. And, he has so many programs there for all of the movies that have, that he can use to raise money for charity, or like he's such a good guy. So it breaks my heart that he's been dragged into this. And like we don't have that many. We don't, having a good guy in Hollywood is rare. And
Yeah, that's so
this is
true.
what we do.
Yeah,
This is why we can't have nice things.
I know. No, it's sad. It is. It really is.
Definitely. Well, on a lighter note, everybody who's here knows that I have a podcast because we'll be listening to it on there. But I was just wondering, as somebody with as much experience with you, what advice you have to give me, someone else who's starting off in the media world and has no idea what they're doing.
Oh my God. Oh, so the media world, it's a big word though, I have to say. So I have a lot of experience from being, a journalist.
Mm-hmm.
And I know and understand how the press works. Um, so social media is like kind of new to me. I did post a lot of my interviews on YouTube. There's like
Mm-hmm.
400 celebrity interviews there, but I never really came out and commentated on or talked about things like I do now. So that's kind of new to me. But I have to say that it's a learning curve, and you need to have a little bit of a thick skin,
Mm-hmm.
because not everyone is always going to agree with you. But so you need to have a strong self-awareness to know, what you stand for is what you believe. And don't let anyone bully you into believing something else.
Yeah.
And I also think always follow your gut. Because if your gut is telling you that this isn't right or doesn't feel good, I feel like always, follow your gut, because you think back at something that you did and you're like, oh, why did I do that? And I felt it. You always have this feeling. So I think 100% of the time your gut is giving you, the right feeling.
Well, I really appreciate the advice and appreciate you coming on to chat. Let everyone know where they can find you.
I'm on Floss on Talk
Love
with FLAAW. Yeah, I think you have to put a
I'll
link
spell it
somewhere.
out.
Yeah,
I'll put it in there.
Everything is so hard to pronounce or spell. And my first name is Kjersti, which is also like, so yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Nikki. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad I found you. I think
Me too.
yeah, I think you're an inspiration for young women, what you did and what
you.
you stand for. And you should be really proud of that.
I appreciate that. You inspire me to be inspiring.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kjersti, for joining me today. Thank you guys for watching the first episode of The Thick of It with Nikki, aka Thick Jewish Girl. I hope you will stick around. It is going to get juicy. It is going to get silly, unfiltered, authentic. Yeah, this is fucking exciting.